Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Modern Day Internet Threats and Securing Enterprise Networks. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Sumit Satishan, Head Pre-Sales and Enterprise Services, India and SARC at CyberRoam. Mr. Sumit Satishan, Head Pre-Sales and Enterprise Services, India and SARC, has over 12 years of experience in IT security. His current association with CyberRoam is more than 9 years old. He has extensively worked in CyberRoam Pre-Sales Division in India before taking mantle of heading the Pre-Sales Division for India and the SARC region. He also heads the Enterprise Service Division of CyberRoam. Currently, he is involved in solving the pre-sales technical queries along with his team and is closely working with the development team in evolving the product and giving market feedback. With his vast experience and technical background, he has been consulting for CyberRoam in identifying and solving the needs of corporate, defense, BFSI, education, etc. verticals. Mr. Satishan is BE Electronics, a CCNA, and a certified ethical hacker, and has trained and certified 1500 plus engineers on CyberRoam security product. He has been an eminent speaker in various forums, seminars, and conferences on IT security events, defense expositions, and IT, and had been conducting various webinars, training, and informative sessions with people of IT community. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Satishan.
Yeah, thanks, Moni, for that introduction. Hello, everyone. Well, whenever you present, it's good to hear a hello back, but then being a webinar, maybe this is one of the cons, but otherwise, webinar is a great thing because I can connect with so many people at a single moment of time. So this is really great and great to see so many people logged in. So the topic which I will be discussing mainly is about the internet threats, in fact the current day internet threats, and how basically what kind of solution you need to secure enterprise kind of a network. Yeah. Now, of course, since there was a brief introduction about myself, okay, I don't need to do that again. But what if I start my presentation without giving away my name? How would you feel, right? I'm sure you would not feel very great because without knowing a person who he is, what he is talking. So it's always good to have that identity. Now, why I'm speaking of identity, of course, you'll come to know in the later slides. But to begin with, I'll briefly tell about the agenda. Yeah, this is what I'll be covering: overview of modern day trends and challenges, key questions before the CIOs or the IT network heads and managers. Now, how to secure enterprise networks with next-gen VPN. And obviously, since I'm representing CyberRoam, I would briefly touch upon what CyberRoam is. Now, to begin with the overview, of course, I would definitely discuss about the major recent security incidents which happened, right? Internet is a real bad network where you see more bad people often. In fact, there are people who create malwares, viruses. In fact, this flame malware, it was mainly targeting, it was targeted to, you can say, the Middle East countries, wherein, of course, it mainly affected the Microsoft Windows operating system. And this is, you can say, a cyber espionage kind of a thing, wherein what it does is, it spreads to other systems over LAN. Right, LAN is one thing. It can even spread over a USB. In fact, what it can do is it can record your audio, any keyboard activity, just like a keylogger does, or the screenshot. It takes the screenshots, the network traffic. In fact, it can even record the Skype conversation, and in fact, it can turn, in fact, the computer into a Bluetooth beacon, wherein it can download contact information from any nearby Bluetooth enabled devices. So this, without any argument, in fact, people of CERT or the Kaspersky Labs, whoever like discovered this thing, said that this is certainly the most sophisticated malware which they encountered, right? So that's the flame malware which affected, I think, in it was in May 2012, right? And as I said, it mainly affected the Middle East countries like Iran or Israel, Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, or Egypt. Right? So that was about the flame. In fact, DNS changer, it was mainly used for basically diverting to fraudulent advertisement. In fact, the company or the organization involved were into online advertisement, and they created this malware so that even on any other genuine site they can infect this, right? And of course, this would get infected or get distributed by the drive by download thing. For example, a video through a video codec wherein you send a video and say that you need a codec, and through that codec download, this gets downloaded, right? So what it used to do is it basically redirects any advertisement link. Of course, it changes the DNS configuration and pointing them to the rogue name servers which is operated by this organization, Rogue Digital, right? And of course, they earn more money out of that. The third thing is the Shamun virus. In fact, it is again equivalent to the flame thing, but then it had certain difference, right? It is again would come under the cyber espionage attacks. Now, what it does is it would spread to other computers on the network through the exploitation of the shared hard drives. So it would compile list of files from maybe specific applications on these systems. It would erase it and then maybe send information about the files back to the attacker, right? And in fact, what it will do finally is it will overwrite the master boot record of the system to prevent it from booting again. Now, this virus has hit companies with mainly oil and energy sectors. Right? Again, this happened around the Middle East region. Okay, now something which is not listed here, I would definitely would like to discuss is the DRDO thing which happened. I think just yesterday, if people have seen the news, so the Technical Intelligence Wing of or NTRO, along with private Indian cyber security experts, basically cracked open the file. The file name was Army Cyber Police Policy. Now, this basically was done by some Chinese. In fact, it is yet to be officially claimed because this news came in, if you know, DNM newspaper in Mumbai. So they are saying that this was, of course, planted by the Chinese because, as you know, there are now talks of something like a cyber army, right? So people believe that if World War III happens, it would no longer be on the battlefields. It would be definitely on the cyber ground, right? So DRDO was one thing which happened in India. In fact, if you know BSNL incidents 2 months back, wherein the BSNL website was basically defaced, right? So talking of all these things, in fact, of course, all the news which made like something like a UK website hit by SQL injection. You must be knowing about the Citigroup hack which happened, or the XSS vulnerability which happened in the Facebook translation posted in March 2011. And of course, this is a known thing, Polish hacker getting inside the US Military Defense Logistic Agency website. So there are so many things happening. In fact, this one, the Fiat one. If you know this, again the defacement which happened to the Fiat, I think 2 places, the France and the Italy website. Okay, that was defaced, and it was, if you know the defacement, whenever it happens, usually the people claim that who they are. So basically, this happened from the Israel as a country. Now, coming back to the point what I was trying. Today's threats are mainly targeting the individuals, right? So gone are the days wherein people used to maybe do it for fun or maybe target a network or something like that, right? So now the target has come to such a level that individuals are being targeted, right? In fact, something called as social engineering, through which you actually can follow or basically get knowledge of a person who is doing what. Basically, you know his Facebook account. You can actually track him, what he is doing. He has an account in LinkedIn. He has an account on Facebook. And I'm sure even hacking a Facebook account is pretty simple, right? Just like a phishing mail, you maybe send a mail saying, okay, this mail is from Facebook mail, and someone liked your picture, or someone wants to be friends with you and things like that. And that can always be a phishing mail, right? Wherein you click on the link, you try to log in, but then it will give some error page and then redirect to the original website. You re-log in, but what happens in between is that you lose your Facebook username password. I know Facebook, you are not storing any money or anything like that, but then the personal information what you have is tremendous. In fact, as I said, people can actually come to know what is happening in your life and things like that, because so many people do a lot of things on Facebook, right, or any other social networking for that matter, right? Now, talking of the insider, right? Now, I am talking of a network, right? So, a network is there. There are people using the network, and when we talk of an insider, he basically has access to all the critical servers that organizations might be having, right? It may be a simple username password of the ADS, Active Directory Service, to start with, or maybe the firewall or the critical web server, right, where you are keeping all your database and whatever order related things. So user ignorance, I believe, is one of the important things, because you cannot treat everyone as a IT savvy person, right? So there might be user who doesn't know anything, can go to any website, can click on any link, can download anything, can download multiple codecs through which maybe a spyware, malware enters the network, right? So the user ignorance is a very important aspect. Now, malicious intent, of course, this can be intentional also, wherein maybe someone on a notice period, someone who is very disgruntled, right, a disgruntled employee, right? So from inside, there can be a chance of attack, because a lot of threats, what we talk today, we talk of something called as blended threats. So basically threats, something like a phishing, right, wherein a user sitting inside a network is targeted. Now, when you do that, you are basically, what you are doing is you are basically catching hold of his ignorance, right? So it would be very easy to install maybe a backdoor and gain access to his system from outside. And then, of course, from his system, you know, maybe he might have saved password, because every browser gives you this option, right? Whenever you log into some web server or anything, it asks you for save password. So even if a hacker gets access to one of the systems, I'm sure he can gain a lot of things from that, right? And that's the reason the insider threat, okay, can lead to more damage. Now, this is basically the network challenges for the organization. In fact, I'm talking now the penetration happening from external as well as from the internal side, right? So when you talk of opening up of network to external users, now this can be a business need, wherein you have your partners or vendors to whom you have giving online ordering access, and of course you have to open up maybe a website or maybe some system, some application through which they are doing all these things, right? So opening up of network to external users, right? And what all things can happen, of course, virus, you know, worm, spam. Spam is, of course, maybe it doesn't do much damage, but then, of course, it takes out your time, right? Whenever we talk of spam, we are talking of man hours lost, because user doesn't know whether that mail is important or not. So by the time he understands, he has lost certain time in that. And what if a user is getting so many spam messages? So of course there are a lot of spams, there are spywares, phishing. I told you phishing I hope everyone knows. Just to put a one line, phishing is basically an email which you get claiming that this mail is from your bank. You have to click in the below link, log into your online banking and update your records. But when you click, you go to a similar looking website, or rather a spoofed website which is hosted by the hacker. It may look same website, maybe sbionlinebanking.com. So you think that it is your own banking site and you put your username password. But actually it is hosted by the hacker, and the hacker gets your banking credentials. Now, of course, you know what will happen after that, right? So that is phishing. In fact, there is something called as farming also. Farming is one step ahead, wherein in phishing, at least you need to click on that link which you are getting from the email. In farming, what happens, even if you are not clicking on any link, but typing the actual URL of that online bank, still you can go to the wrong site. Is that possible? Yes, it is very much possible, because if you know, every operating system would have a host file which basically stores the IP to name resolution. So what if through some virus or a malware, someone makes entry in your host file? Like, just to tell you, host file, where it lies in Windows, it lies in the system 32 etc driver folder, driver etc folder. So in the host file, if I put a IP and say sbionlinebanking.com, and on that system, if you open a browser, try to access online SBI, it will go to that IP which is listed in the host file. And again, on that IP, maybe hacker is hosting a spoof website of SBI banking, and again the same thing would happen. What happens with phishing, right? So there are a lot of things which someone can do sitting from outside, and all these things, again, I am highlighting on the fact that there is definitely a user side ignorance, right? So what we are trying to put here is that the user sitting inside, you have to take care of that user, right? Now, of course, from external views, what all things can happen. Now, from internal side, what all things can happen. The simplest thing is the data leakage, right? Wherein important data which is related to your organization can go out through a lot of mediums. There is FTP, there is instant messenger, there is of course email, web mails, right? So there are a lot of ways data can go out of your network, right? And then of course there are this P2P kind of software or spyware kind of thing which basically can take your data outside. Now, of course, we also talk of growing presence of dynamic environments. In fact, I would elaborate on this later in this slide. So, what I am trying to tell you is basically talking of the challenges for the organization. The threat level is from the both sides, external as well as internal. And as you can see in the examples of phishing and farming, though the attack was initiated from external side, but it needs a internal approval before they can actually do something, right? So, so that user sitting who is inside your network is makes a lot of a difference. Now, before I begin, I just would like to throw this like issues with usually the IT security teams would like to address. Now, this is again coming from IDC survey, wherein they had asked this question. So 7 IT security issues which identified below among the top 3 issues. So if you see the top 3 issues, the first one would be the network security. Obviously, everyone would like to make their perimeter security really stronger. If you look at the second point, identity and access management. Now this is more important. Again, when I talked about insider, you should be actually knowing maybe the insider. You should know maybe he is working in accounts department. So why should you give him access to certain application which he may not need, right? So doing a access management is a very important point. And third, of course, the data loss prevention. So of course, followed by the endpoint security, the web security, or the vulnerability management, or the messaging security, right? So just like spams, there is something like spam, right? Like getting spam messages over instant messengers. So, so taking this cue from these top three issues, that is network security, identity and access management, and data loss prevention. Now, moving ahead, if I can briefly put this, of course, I know everyone knows about this, but then I just want to put it in the right perspective. Of course, talking of threats, we talked about threat, external, internal. So taking care of the threats, and it is ever emerging threats, right? The threat level, the threat patterns are growing. So new kind of threats are coming up, right? So the threat is ever growing. Talking of security policy, you need to have security policy which takes care of all these threats, right? At the same time, you have to expect continued productivity as well as connectivity of the network. Compliances. Now this is a bit different aspect, but then once you are an enterprise, you need to get into something like this, wherein basically you are taking care of the kind of reports you are maintaining, whatever security or whatever infrastructure you are maintaining, okay, as part of the network. You need to ensure that you are in compliance with maybe some regulatory compliance which your company or organization may be falling under, right? Something like a PCI DSS compliance, right? Payment credit industry data security standards. So any company, okay, which has a network with a computer which does a online credit transaction, right? So that needs to be PCI DSS compliance. So obviously it would have certain guidelines and you need to comply to that guidelines. Of course, mobility is the next one, because now the kind of work pattern we see, right? People, of course, working from home is one concept. People who are roaming, right? Touring and traveling. So we are talking of mobile users, right? That means they are not always in the network, but whenever they are out of network, they may need access to your network to ensure that the productivity is intact. And the last point, again, a very important point, is incident response continuity. Now, why this point? Because we talk of, this is really important point. Why, in fact, the today's presentation, what I am doing, this point, the incident response or continuity, is a real important point for me, because we are talking of so many various type of security policing required. Now, when we talk of so varied level of security things which would be in place in your network, you need a team or a skill set, okay, which can take care of all these things, right? And of course, you have to set that incident response thing so that your network doesn't get doesn't shut down. It is continuous, right? Now, all this thing with the one thing I didn't mention first, that is the cost, right? Of course, talking of cost, one thing I would like to highlight here is that though we have so much of IT awareness in India, but unfortunately when it comes to bigger organization, the kind of amount spent on IT is very less. In fact, I remember during the times of recession, the so-called recession which we had maybe 3 years back, the first thing which it impacted is the IT budget. That is in fact really wrong. Just think of a scenario. When you talk of recession, you talk of people getting, of course, jobless, maybe IT savvy people getting jobless. They may try to do some wrong things, something to do with online frauds or hacking kind of a thing, right? So that is a time when you need more security. So cutting your IT budget is something which doesn't make sense. So obviously, whatever we are talking here, the cost is definitely a factor, and whatever security we want to give, we have to look at this important factor of cost. Moving ahead. So talking of all these things, what we believe is today's business needs a centralized security management solution, right? So talking of all the security aspects, so we talked of the internal threats, we talked of the external threats, right? We talked of virus, the spam, the instant messaging, data leakage, and all those things. So talking of all those things, all those threats, we have to ensure that all such threats are taken care at the first place. Of course, cost, as I said, is one of the important factors. Now, compliance, again, is important, because whatever you are doing, you have to ensure that it is getting audited, or it is basically, it can get under any scrutiny of any audit. And lastly, the skills, right? Now again, as I said, the skill point is very important for me for today's presentation. So this is what we believe, a centralized approach wherein you get all these things covered. Now, before we move ahead, 7 key questions to, of course, the IT team, what it would be. Question number 1, applications and more applications. Am I in control? Right? You are seeing so many applications around. In fact, gone are the days of files and folders, right? People are just talking about applications now. I'm sure most of you are carrying smartphones, right? Wi-Fi enabled smartphones with so many applications. In fact, I have given few applications here. I don't know, they are more IT related applications, but then you have all your, Skype is here, the messengers are there. Then you have your Facebook application on Android, your Facebook on Apple, you have your Twitter application. So many applications, right? In fact, if you have seen glimpse of the new Windows 8, they are in a way going away from that file folder system. Of course, it is there, but then they are giving you that tile kind of a thing wherein you just click on it and you just get into your application, right? So talking of so many applications around. Now, how much control do I have over users in my network? Now, this is a real important question. In fact, of course, all you people are from different, I would say, areas in the IT field. But then, if I go to any simple network admin and ask him, do you know who is doing what in your network? Okay, if an attack happens, do you know who is the attacker? Okay, who can be the likely targets? Or a very simple question, do you know where your bandwidth is going, right? Nobody has a clear-cut visibility of what is happening in the network, right? Now, again, which devices are being used to connect the web, who accesses them. So there can be a lot of questions, right? So all these questions, as you can see. So basically, we are trying to ask here, or question here is that, do you have visibility of the network, or do you have visibility over the users? That is more important, right? At the beginning of my presentation, I used the term identity, right? Now, we believe that having a user visibility is at most important. Even if you are doing a security for the entire network or a perimeter level security, having a visibility of user is most important. Moving on to the next question, how to secure borderless networks? Of course, we were talking about the mobility, the people who are moving around, right? So, of course, plus the branch offices, like there can be a scenario wherein a big organization has, of course, a corporate head office, and then there can be different remote offices, maybe in the same city, maybe in a different city, or maybe outside India also, right? So, how to provide secure remote access to mobile workers, or your branch offices, or to partners, right? Now, can my web applications be hacked, right? We talked about the BSNL website being hacked and all those things. So basically, there are a lot of hackers. In fact, if you know, there is a website, okay, which basically gives you, like hackers put in which all website they recently hacked, right? So, do you, okay, can I show you that? Let me just check. Yeah. Let me see, zone-h.net archive. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, there it goes. I hope everyone is able to see this slide of my screen of mine. So if you can see there, people are putting, and you can even view the mirror of that defaced site, right? So people, like, I think this is what time zone it is following, I don't know, but then if you can see, people are putting, again the notifiers, in fact they have their own names also, just like we have names for our IPL teams. So they have names, they tell you about which domain, which was the operating system, right? So if you see on the right hand side, any notion you had that Linux operating system are safe, I'm sure that would go away, right? You're seeing a lot of Linux there. Okay. So coming back to it, so we are talking of basically web application which are very vulnerable. In fact, there is something called as OWASP, right? Open Web Application Security Project, basically who keep track of any open web application vulnerabilities, right? So known vulnerabilities of web application, because when we talk of web applications, there are so many scripting languages used, so many middleware languages used to create a web server. There are so many web servers available around, be it your, I think, commonly known IIS web servers or your Tomcat, right? There are WebSphere. There are so many web servers around. So with all these combinations of web servers, your middleware scripting like PHP or JSP or Java and .NET and all those things. So with all this combination, there has to be a project wherein people are updating what are the top vulnerabilities, right? So basically organization, in fact, we have seen in a lot of government and different organizations, in fact, who are mainly the target when you talk of something like Chinese cyber army or things. Now, they have a website, a legacy kind of a website, which was nobody knows who developed it kind of stuff. So, of course, they may not have taken care when they were doing the designing the website. So, there might be a lot of loopholes in that website. Now, when you have such website with so many loopholes and you publish it at the back of your firewall, there are high chances that it may get hacked, right? Because there are attack methods, something like SQL injection. I'm sure most of you know about all these things, cross-site scripting or URL tampering kind of thing, right? So basically web applications like your, maybe it can be a intranet, it can be your ERP or your MIS system, it can be even your payment gateway thing, right? So basically a port 80 or port 443, right? Your web ports, if they are open to the same web port, there can be some different way of accessing or exploiting it, okay, which can lead to all this damage. And of course, there are, as I said, so many hackers around. I just gave you that website, zone-h.net/archive. You can see people posting the latest websites which they have hacked. Now, yes, so business data going out, right? And consequences, of course, we are seeing website defacement, loss of revenue, loss of brand. That is more important, right? Because everyone, I'm sure, is working for like a positive thing, but then when you have a brand loss, it's the most bad thing which can happen to any organization, right? So, next question. How to get uninterrupted connectivity? Now, this connectivity or the business continuity is a very important aspect, because we are talking of so many things coming up. Just imagine, I just like to give you a scenario. People have a network, right? Now, they have a network, they know, okay, I have internet, I have users, I have done great networking, I have done used nice switches, I have used nice firewall, everything is fine. But what is happening? Though the number of users in his network is not increasing, but what is happening? The kind of websites which are now there available on internet, right? Just take example of a Facebook, right? You open Facebook, along with that you can open the chat of Facebook, you can open that, what is that, Farmville game along with that, right? So many things, right? So what is this? 3 years back, or maybe I'll take example 4 years back, something like this was not there. So the same set of users, the same network, but the load was not that much. But now come here, 2013, you have all these things, Facebook, Twitters. Again, apart from the systems provided to the user, user is bringing in his own device, right? There is the BYOD concept coming in. People bringing in their tablet, their iPads, their Wi-Fi enabled mobile devices. Everything is coming into the same network, right? So there has to be continuous effort in, of course, upgrading the network, but then at most important is the connectivity. The IT team always has to ensure that there is a business continuity, and the interruption of network can lead to, of course, loss of business. There can be loss of productivity, and of course, they won't be able to meet their SLAs, and definitely there would be dissatisfied customers, right? So uninterrupted connectivity is one aspect. Now this is one thing I would like to brush upon. Multiple security solutions. Of course, there are so-called best-of-breed solutions available for each and everything, or each and every security aspect which is needed in a network. Be it content filtering, web and content filtering, of course, which is needed to block your network users from not accessing certain sites, right? You need VPN so that the remote workers or their mobile workers can connect to your network, or your branches can be connected to your head office. Something like a IDP or IPS as it is known as, right? Intrusion prevention system, so that I can block hackers from trying to intrude. Anti-spam, I spoke about the spam, right? Spam basically results in a lot of productivity time loss users. So anti-spam solution would be needed. Antivirus solution would be needed for obvious reasons, and of course the firewall would be needed, right? So we are talking of multiple security solution, complex. There would be complexity in managing them, higher cost, getting consolidated logs and reports, right? All different system working in a different ways. How do you get that, right? And one most important thing, the skill set, right? I think I stressed on this point. The skill set. Do you think a single person or maybe even a team of 2 people or 3 people would be able to manage all these things? That looks difficult, right? So that's one thing. Okay, I have some. Okay. So the 7th question is your security infrastructure future ready? Now, how can I get? Okay, I just, I think I some. Okay, I regret that. Okay, the 7th question is your security infrastructure future ready? So we are talking of the gigabit infrastructure coming in, right? Gone are the days of 10 by 100 networks or even a 1 gig network, right? People are talking of now 10 gig, right? We have fibers coming with 10 gig support. We have even Ethernet coming up with 10 gig supports, right? And in fact, forget the network. We even have the internet coming in gigabit speed. I hope you people know about the NKN project. That's the National Knowledge Network project. In fact, this is like being implemented by the NIC, right? The National Informatics Center. So they are providing 1 Gbps network to all big universities. Now, out of that, of course, 150 Mbps would be pure internet. The rest would be all the knowledge sharing that can happen along around the NIC website, which actually hosts most of the important or critical data. In fact, if you know, most of these results are even declared on the NIC websites, right? So gigabit internet is not very far away. Security infrastructure supporting higher device connections. I think I spoke about a single user. Apart from his laptop or a desktop, he may even have his iPhone or maybe any Android-based tablet or maybe a Wi-Fi phone, right? So he also connects to the network. Now, of course, talking of applications, right? Now, the infrastructure needs to understand which application should be allowed. Because let me tell you, there are so many applications around. So many applications. In fact, like CyberRoam as a solution, we have categorized it in 9 to 10 categories. So there are so many applications around. You need to really know which application is needed, which is business critical, which is not needed, which can be a casual application, right? Now, the last point here is the taking care of your regulatory compliances, right? With all this security infrastructure, okay? You have to ensure that whether you are compliant to the regulatory compliances. Now talking of all these things, now whenever you think of putting so much of security, right? Okay, usually you try to lose on your connectivity, right? Maybe your connectivity gets slower or whatever, or the productivity. So there are these three aspects any organization would expect. That is the security, the connectivity, and the productivity. Now, anyone should not get off balance, right? So when we talk of so much of productivity and connectivity, okay, we should not bottleneck the security aspect of it. In fact, I would say there should be a balance between all these three things: security, productivity, as well as connectivity. Now, how does a next generation UTM can help? Now, before that, what is the industry offering? Like, just to tell you, like, of course, we are working in a competent environment wherein there are so many things which are around. Of course, there are traditional firewall which has maybe a VPN or a IPS capability. There are, of course, a lot of UTMs or Unified Threat Management solutions which are available. Okay, now this is the new thing, NGFW, that is the next generation firewall, right? So this is a new thing. Now, various point solutions are there. That means a separate solution for maybe a web filtering, separate solution for your antivirus, separate solution for anti-spam kind of thing. Now I would like to ask this question: how NGFW is different from a UTM? Okay, so we are talking of something which is new. Everyone is trying to put a focus on something called as next generation firewall, right? Now, if I tell you just a bit of history, now there were, of course, the traditional firewalls which had a VPN capability and maybe a different IPS or a IPS inbuilt. Now then came something, a concept called as UTM. Now UTM came with a concept wherein it started giving everything on a single box. So you can say an integrated security approach, right? Now next generation firewall is basically a new thing or a new term coin, I would say, wherein it says that okay, it is that same traditional firewall, but then it also gives you application visibility, and of course it can also take care of malwares. So basically, what is all these things? Why so much of confusion? So that's basically the question. Is it just creation of a common playground? So I think NG firewall, I would say, is maybe not more than a UTM. In fact, it is less than that. So NG firewall is basically something, as I said, which gives you a firewall, but it also gives you application visibility as well as antivirus, anti-malware. That's what a next generation firewall talks about, right? Now UTM, of course, there are so many UTM available, but then here I would like to distinguish something called as a next generation UTM. Again, whenever you have a UTM, you have this flexibility of to choose. So you can have all these threat protection features as per your choice. It can be intrusion prevention system, right? So intrusion prevention system, of course, the gateway antivirus, anti-spyware, the gateway anti-spam, and the just a minute, let me, yeah. And of course, web and content filtering would be another aspect of it. Bandwidth management given by most of the UTMs. There is something called as multi-link management. Now, the best point in UTM is that it gives you this flexibility of choice, right? You can choose from various whatever is needed, whatever is not needed. So basically, you can always get a next generation firewall from a UTM. Maybe you buy a certain thing, and the certain things you don't buy. So you can always make a kind of a bouquet, and any UTM which is giving you a speed, or any futuristic UTM, I would say, which is taking care of that gigabit or high speed internet which is coming, which would take the kind of explosion, what the device explosion which is happening, right? Users bringing in so many devices, right? So the same network now is having more load in terms of people bringing in their own devices. So any UTM which is taking care of that, of course, definitely you can call it a next generation firewall. Now, CyberOm is of course one of the UTMs, and we say that we are an identity-based UTM. In fact, that's one of the USP of CyberOm, because we believe that the insider threat, okay, is more dangerous, or it can be exploited more often. So having a good look at your insider is always better for a border or a gateway level security. Now, before I think I should talk about advanced security features also, right? For example, a control wherein I can say instant messaging control, wherein over and above just allowing and blocking of IMs, I can even basically control who can chat with whom, or I can control whether you can do a file transfer or not, or whether I allow a webcam or not. Or the web application firewall, right? We talked about the defacement of website. So web application firewall becomes a very important part of a gateway level protection, because it would protect you against that OWASP vulnerabilities, and it should ideally have a positive protection model so that it can work in offline web application like intranet, right? So or you go to a defense kind of organization where there is a thin gap internet. That means there is no internet available to most of the network. The 90% of the network is not on internet. So even in that case, if there is a web application, something like an intranet, or it can be some internal site, right? Even that can be protected if you have a positive protection model, right? Positive protection model means that you are not working on the blacklisting method, where you are referring to a signature table, but instead what you are doing is you are basically relying on your own learning what you do, right? So you know about good learning. So it's like you know who are good people and you block all the bad people. That's how positive protection model works. Now, again, this is the point I am stressing again and again, giving the due importance to the insider, because most of the security, the traditional security, work on the IP alone, right? So what we are trying to say here is that like if you have a dynamic IP environment, right, where IPs keep on changing. Now every here and there you see a Wi-Fi network. Wi-Fi network itself means that the IP keeps on changing for a user, right? So suppose for CEO of the company, you want to give a policy that we don't want to block any websites for the CEO. Let him access all the websites, right? If I want to create this granular policy in a traditional system, I need to create this policy based on the IP address, right? So that's the like bad part, because if tomorrow or maybe a week later, if his IP gets changed, right, because of the DHCP or the Wi-Fi, what happens? That policy or that rule you created for his IP no longer makes any sense, right? So similarly, there can be shared desktop environment, right? Now I'm talking of a 24/7 call center where a single system is used by 3 different people working in 3 different shifts, right? So shared desktop environment where again there is nothing like an identity, right? So your system is your identity, which is actually wrong. So what I am trying to drive a point here is that identity, having an identity aware gateway device is very much important, right? So that you can actually know who is doing what in the network, right? That ability gives you to helps you to create more stringent policies, take care that nobody is exploiting your users' IT unawareness and try to gain access of the network. It would help you to create more granular policies, right? Now, just to summarize, the insider threat protection has to be given due importance. Choice of NG firewall or NG UTM, I would definitely go for NG UTM because it gives you more choice, because it gives me flexibility to choose the threat protection needed. So I can always create a layered architecture, right? So at a perimeter level, I choose just the firewall and maybe VPN and the IPS. And at a below tier or a below layer, what I will do is I will use the filtering aspect of it. Right? So with a two-tier architecture, I'm sure I would be able to create a good architecture for my network. Okay, now just before I sign off or start taking your questions, I would like to talk about CyberOhm. Now, before I begin, just a small thing. CyberOhm is basically an Indian-based company. So we are talking of an Indian company which is now selling globally. CyberOhm has basically its basic innovation as the layer 8 technology. Yes, I did say layer 8. Of course, everyone knows about the 7 layers of OSI. Now here I am talking of a 8th layer. So this is actually what happens. So whenever a packet is flowing through CyberOhm subsystem, we are basically actually literally putting one more layer on the OSI stack, and that information would be the user information. So either the source or the destination of the packet, that user identity would be tagged with that packet, right? And this gives you basically control, okay, so that you can have a security across layer 2 to layer 8. So that's the basic layer 8 technology. Of course, it's a US patent pending technology. We are awaiting the patent, right? And CyberOhm is the only UTM which also gives you a web application firewall as an additional module, right? So web application firewall would be for anyone who have their website published inside their network. This is what CyberOhm as a company offers. Of course, the UTM is one of the key things. Of course, there are a few supporting product line like the CCC, CyberOhm Central Console, wherein if you have multiple CyberOhm devices, you can take control by using a CCC. Of course, we give you the reporting also. One of the USP of CyberOhm is that we give on-appliance reporting. So ideally, you don't need to buy any reporting hardware or a software. But then iView is there just in case you need to store your reports for more number of period, like 1 year or 2 years. Then maybe iView would be helpful. And of course, we have a very tiny, I would say a tiny UTM. Now we have put it in 2 flavors, a home flavor and a Soho flavor. Now home flavor would give you that parental control. So actually we are talking of a CyberOhm device which can fit in your home, right? So if you have a single internet connection coming to your home, it can go to this small or I would say smart Wi-Fi router. Now this smart Wi-Fi router can basically do parental control also. It can distribute the internet, right? In fact, even if you are sitting in office, you can access your home, not access, but then you can get report of your home Wi-Fi router over the cloud, right? So that's CyberOhm NetGenie. CyberOhm NetGenie is available as a Soho also, wherein we also give the VPN feature. So this basically what we did with the NetGenie Soho is that we are enabling the smallest of the network to go for a security device, right? Instead of using a plain Wi-Fi access point or a Wi-Fi router, why not go for additional security along with it? Right? CyberOhm has recently launched its virtual form also. So now CyberOhm, the UTM, the CCC is available on the virtual platform like VMware and Hyper-V. Right? So of course you can we can secure the virtual data center, or if at all India starts doing office in a box, because we are selling the virtual UTM in Australia more because there the concept of office in a box has come up in a big way. And of course we are encouraging the enterprises, or we are trying to establish MSSPs. That's brief about CyberOhm as a company. So it's a proud moment for us, a company which is started from India. Now we are selling globally. We are selling in 125 plus countries, right? I'm sure you must have seen big MNCs coming here, appointing country managers in India. Now just imagine we go to other countries and appointing country managers there. I'm sure you feel proud about that fact. and we are among the top 3 global players when it comes to UTM features. In fact, I will give you a snapshot of that Gartner quadrant report. And of course, we have this patent pending technology for the layer 8 technology. So this is that Gartner magic quadrant. If you see 2012, we are somewhere here, right? And if I look at the y-axis, I am just the 3rd product world over which talks of completeness of vision. Right? This basically y-axis talks about the market penetration. Of course, once Cyberome starts selling more in maybe European or North American regions, we would definitely go up here. We would be in the leaders quadrant. But right now, what we are saying is we are the 3rd in the world as far as technicality is concerned. There's the Cyberome credentials. Of course, each aspect or each security functionality of Cyberome is certified. So we have got this West Coast Lab checkmark certification for all the UTM feature. We are IPv6 gold logo, wherein we are we can always be part of any heterogeneous network which is having IPv4 as well as IPv6. We are of course member of the Internet Watch Foundation because of our strong URL filtering capabilities. Of course, the basic ICSLab certification is there. The VPNC certificate, that means it is a standard VPN. I can create tunnel with any other standard VPN provider. Now, of course, India being our home country, we were proud of the fact that during 2010-11, we were #1 UTM in India, right? So, we are among top 3 players in Middle East, African, and Asia Pacific region, and only Indian company player among the top 5 vendors. So that was the report from IDC. I think that's all from me. Of course, I would definitely take questions. Mohini, I think I'm done. I'm ready for questions, if any.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sumit. I've assigned you a few questions. Are you able to see them?
Yes. Okay, I think I go by. Okay, I'll go by the order. Okay, Ankit Gupta, I just want to know that like DRDO or other government sites, how they have, as they have having great security. Okay, Ankit, that's a good notion to be with, but then unfortunately, having a good security is one thing, but having a good security and a proper policy in place is another thing, right? Definitely, I know why you asked this question, because we see a lot of tenders happening, they buy good products and all those things. But then there has to be a level of involvement wherein you are getting it configured properly, right? Definitely, I would say the configuration wise, you know how things work. DRDO, of course, were taken by surprise, but I don't want to make any generic comment against the working way of government or anything like that, but any security device would not make any sense if it is not configured properly. That's all I would answer to this question. Okay, second one is from Mr. Venkat Raman Ganpati Raman. Okay, why don't we come up with a solution to control the malware hacking by broadcasting such IP address which cause these problems and forbid such IP address at each of the servers? Okay, that's the simplest thing we can do. In fact, that is what all these solutions do, Venkat. So basically, in fact, even in Cyberome, like there is something called as a database, like a IP reputation database. So we refer to this database and check whether this IP was spamming or not. And if it was spamming, we lower the reputation, right? So the reputation would go towards bad reputation. So if I'm getting any request from a bad reputed IP, I would just block that. So definitely we do that, but then we cannot do it the kind of question like the way I am understanding it. Venkat wants to do it at maybe nation level. That is not possible. In fact, there are certain URLs which the DOT has asked all the ISPs to block. So even in India, very soon you will see that there would be certain anti-national related websites, not websites, I would say URL more appropriately. So there can be a Facebook URL or there can be a Twitter URL. For example, there is a duplicate Sharad Pawar Twitter account. So that duplicate account would be blocked by the DOT, so the ISPs, right? So something like that. So definitely at the country level, there would be a URL blocking happening, but doing it on an IP at country level would be a big risk. But then the solutions what people buy would definitely have that control. Okay, there is another question from Nikunj Patel. What is the difference between select poll system call? Okay, this is I think for you, Mohini. I am not answering that. Okay, Manish Kumar asks, what is the best way to secure your website from SQL injection? Okay, Manish. Talking at a website level, definitely the simplest thing is, the very simplest thing, when you are making the website, you of course give the field restriction, right? So if you have a username field, you ensure that you limit it to maybe a 20 character or a 16 character. So if anyone wants to write a SQL code, right, create, insert or whatever it is, I'm sure it will take longer than that. So that front end level restriction itself would be enough, right? Okay, Rachit Srivastav asks, does your have features to specifically prevent access to ports for preventing OSDB, fingerprinting, DDoS, DOS, etc.? Yes, Rachit, definitely we do have this. In fact, we do this at various levels. In fact, for DOS, we do it very intelligently, wherein suppose DOS is happening from TCP only, or if it is UDP DOS only, or if it is ICMP only, then we block that protocol only, right? And definitely we can take care of all these things. Again from Rachit, can you sure of much throughput, success rate of prevention of any UTM in market for OWASP vulnerabilities? Sure of much throughput of any UTM for OWASP vulnerabilities. I think, of course, if you want to see the CyberHome, the kind of throughputs we give, we have various models. You can check that. And definitely you can contact me on my personal email, not personal, the official email ID. That's my name dot my second name at cyberhome.com. Nikunj Patel, where is CyberHome? How can I buy CyberHome system? Yeah, Nikunj, again as I said, you can mail me on sumit.satishan@cyberhome.com. I think on your screen you can see my name, so I'm sure you'll be able to form my email ID. There is the last question I can see from Nagaraju Asamani. It says, I would like to know about the available tools that can be used to test web services and their security level. Okay, that's a simple question to ask, but then there are a lot of things which I need to answer in that. So I would simply say there are a lot of tools available, definitely. In fact, since we are also in the WAF feature set, so we also use tools. So, but these are generic tools available. So if at all you have done something like a CEH, I'm sure you must have heard of these tool names, right? So there are of course port scanners and various things are there. I think the best way I can answer this is that I think just go to Google. Right, that's the simplest thing. Of course, otherwise you can email me also. I think I'm done with my questions. Mohini, any more questions you have for me?
Have a few more questions.
Hello.
We have a few more questions. Are you able to see them?
Okay, yeah. Just one I got. Yeah. Arpita. Okay. Alok. Okay. can brute force techniques be minimized? Yes, definitely it can be minimized. In CyberOhm, what we do is, like you can set parameters, okay? You can set parameters of how login attempts would be done from the external side, right? So brute force attack, as you know, is someone trying to forcefully, using some scripting, trying different usernames in a span of maybe seconds, right? So you can always, like in CyberOhm, you can set all these times, right? So what should be the number of attempts in a minute kind of thing, right? So all those things you can do. Okay, just a minute. How can I use my DMZ server in my network security? DMZ server in my network security. Okay, the term DMZ is, as it says, it is demilitarized zone. So basically, if you have servers, so by server we mean that it is something very critical. So you would like to protect it from internet as well as from your own internal side also, right? Because internal side there can be again propagation of maybe virus or maybe DOS kind of thing. So DMs is basically creating separate zone and so that you can basically segregate it from internet as well as from internal users. So basically every firewall would give you option of creating DMZ zone. Okay, can you please give me the difference between spyware, adware and malware? Okay, Rajesh. So I know this, all these terms are used very synonymously. Okay, malware I would say is a combination or malware is more generic term, like you can say, which is used for any virus or spyware, right? Adware is of course a bit different, or I would say a type of a malware. That's what I can answer. Alok Jain, what is the smallest techniques to overcome the unwanted malwares and trojans? Smallest technique, I didn't understand smallest. Is it the cheapest or like what is it? I didn't get that question. Okay, today virtually every business function at the university involves use of information technology. We use computers to store and retrieve records, and we conduct online transaction or building cameras on the internet. This is the easy way how I can protect my data or an organization data. Okay. Okay, that's a good question, Heman. Okay, Heman Gohil. Okay. Heman, basically, you are very much right. In fact, the IT has become the necessity. In fact, I have seen, I have visited universities who plan or already implementing exams, the question paper. If you know, right now the question paper actually does a physical travel, right? There is a like it starts from the main university. There is a seal happening. Then it goes to the examination center. There they unlock and they open it just half an hour before the exam starts and all those things, right? Now all these things would be, they would be doing online, right? So there would be a password given which gets activated just half an hour before the thing, but the file is already sent and all those things. Okay, but coming back to your answer, we conduct online transaction over buildings, okay, campus and internet network connection. So easy way to protect your data, I would say, of course, you need security. Again, if you feel that you have a database or like any critical application, you should always create a DMZ. So I'm just trying to tell you safe practices. Make sure that you have some server level antivirus, right? Because that data is more important to you, right? Using data leakage prevention would definitely help you. But moreover, you need a very good protection at a gateway level, right? Which can get into all the security aspects, not only the firewall or the VPN aspect of it, but then all the other aspects. And of course, application visibility. Who is using what kind of application, right? I'm sure you can do that. And using safe practice, like not allowing USB in your like if you are talking of institutes, you may have computer labs, right? So you can have a healthy policy wherein you say that, okay, we don't allow external USB drive, right? Because that can be start of a virus or a malware. So don't allow something like that. Of course, you can follow all these safe practices. Okay. Sudhir Kashyap, can you assure that Cyber will secure the network 100% and how? What algorithm you are using to achieve this? Well, algorithm. Okay, see, when it comes to 100%, there are lot many things which requires fine tuning. For example, something like IPS. Unless and until you do IPS hardening, I won't, of course, no one would assure you 100% security. Same happens with this spam. In fact, we officially say that we protect you from 98% of spam, right? So 2% I would always leave there, right? Now, the second part of your question, algorithm, of course, if you want to know, I can of course briefly talk about my architecture. Now we of course support, we work on the multi-core architecture, and we have an extensible architecture in a way that if there are any new things which come up, right? So we are expecting that the future would be more dangerous, the kind of threats which would be coming up would be again in a different level. So having a flexible architecture, right, extensible or flexible architecture would definitely help Cyberome as a product, right? And of course, we follow the identity. I talked about the layer 8. The layer 8 is nothing but our USP, wherein we are making use of identity across all the security features. And of course, if you need more details of the actual how the packet flow would happen, I would like you to visit my knowledge base website. That is KB, K for knowledge, B for base, knowledge base, right? kb.cyberome.com, that's the URL. And I'm sure you can search for the Cyberome architecture and you will see how, in fact, we are given the diagram also, and you can see how our system works. Okay, what other than user awareness training is the best policy to implement to prevent employees from becoming the victim of social engineering? Okay. Now, social engineering, you cannot stop your users if they are meeting unknown people outside your office, right? So, social engineering is something different. But then again, I would stress on this point of having like safe practices, right? Again, not allowing. In fact, of course, if they are opening any kind of video file, you can of course start with blocking of video files, right? That's the simplest thing. So you can block download of any exe. You can make a practice that you keep two systems in control of the IT team who can only do download of any exes. And for all the other users, you can basically say that no, exe download is only allowed to the IT team. They would download it and give, right? So you can always make such policies. I'm sure you will, if you search, you will find more such healthy practices which you should follow in an organization. Is there any software to detect the spoofing? Software. I don't know about software. I'm sure there would be softwares available which can check this. Again, I'm assuming Mac spoofing here. Spoofing again is a generic term. So spoofing, if you're saying it's a website spoofing, then I don't know. But then of course, if you are talking about Mac spoofing, definitely there would be softwares available. Can brute force techniques be minimized? Yeah, minimized in the sense, of course, unfortunately, not all the systems can block brute force effectively. I'm talking in the term that the kind of security everyone is having, right? Few may be able to block it, few may fall to it, right? So, till the time the people have bad security, people using brute force technique would definitely continue to do so. That's what I believe. How to control all three aspects: security, productivity, and connectivity? Arpita. Okay. How to control? Okay. See, basically the my presentation per se or Cyberom per se, what I am trying to say here is that usually what happens is to get connectivity, you compromise on security, right? So, for example, the best connectivity is what? Don't check for any antivirus scanning, right? Like just disallow anyone from doing any kind of scanning. So that would be the highest kind of connectivity you may achieve, right? But then what you are doing, you are compromising on security. And if the user gets into malicious intent, then you are also losing on the productivity. So basically the kind of balance what I am talking about through the policy, right? So basically I am talking at a configuration level. Of course, this again I have been answering a lot of IT policy related things. So basically with a system like Cyberom, wherein you know what all things Cyberom can do, right? The kind of control it gives you. Okay. In fact, one of the aspect I would like to put in here for this question of security, productivity, and connectivity is that Cyberom gives you a technique called as fusion technology. I'll just tell you what is fusion technology. Fusion technology is something wherein in Cyberom, whatever policy application I do, okay, that is applying of policies I do it on the firewall rule itself. Now, I'm sure people who understand firewall rule may understand this. So, whenever I talk of a UTM, okay, there are so many things. There is a firewall, there is a IPS, there is a VPN, there is a web filtering, there is a antivirus scanning, there is anti-spam scanning, so many things. But in Cyberom, I am not working on all this in different way, or rather they are not working independently. Everything is working on a same level. Level in the sense, when I go to firewall rule, I create, what is the firewall rule? There is the basic rule matching criteria would be there. What is the source IP, destination IP, and all those things. In Cyberom, in rule matching criteria, you will also get the identity option. That means I can create a user-based firewall rule, right? So that example of CEO which I gave earlier, where you created a IP-based rule for him, in Cyberom actually I can create a user-based firewall rule. So even if his IP changes, suppose he is gone to the conference room, he is gone to the training room, wherever he goes within the network, whatever VLAN he is in, his IP would change, but his username would remain same, right? So that is one thing, wherein Cyberom in the firewall gives you identity in the rule matching criteria, and of course in the action there is netting and all those things. Plus there is an advanced setting wherein I can do all these things. Whether you want to apply a web filter policy, whether you want to apply a IPS policy, I can even decide on the route through gateway. That means if you have more than one ISP, suppose let's take example, I have a Reliance link and I have a Bharti Airtel link. So I can decide that a particular firewall rule which I am creating, whether it should go from my Reliance link or whether it should go through my Airtel link or whether it should go through my local broadband link, that you can decide on a firewall rule itself. So on the same firewall rule you can set everything. So in Cyberom, managing Cyberom is very easy. Why? Because everything you get on the same firewall rule page. So just visiting the firewall rule page, you come to know, okay, what you have done. Right? For example, you have applied a IPC. Yeah, now menu. But otherwise, the policy application happens on the firewall rule itself, and that's where I am saying that fusion technology will definitely helps. Okay, where I was, Arpita, okay. Nikunj, tell me how many clients can be connected to Cyberom device at a time. Nikunj, we have various models. So basically, we have last year introduced our highest model as of now. It is CR2500 ING. So we have deployed 2500 ING in a network consisting of 5,000 plus users. Right? So that's the capacity it can have. And since we give a high availability feature, that means I can have a 2 into 2500 ING working in clustering high availability mode. and when I use active high availability, I can increase 60% of the user capacity. So I can go up to maybe 8,000 users, total users. Okay, I'm taking the next question. Alok Jain, is it possible to track the real IP if hacker is using premium VPN or proxy? In fact, Alok, you talked about premium VPN. Again, when you say VPN, ultimately it must be coming out of some NAT device, and if that NAT device has keep the log of which system, which local system had connected, definitely you may get caught. Or even case of proxy also the same thing. But then usually hackers, what they do, you are right in your thinking, because hackers usually don't do direct attack, right? They basically use make use of lot of zombies, right? Zombies are basically compromised system on the internet. So they make use of lot of zombies. They hop from zombies to zombies, and then ultimately maybe last 2-3 zombies they'll use from Russia or China, right? Why? Because these two countries don't have any cyber treaty with any other country. So usually a hacker may be Indian hacker, but then वो कहते हैं ना यार मुन्नी बदनाम हुई, so maybe the hacker is Indian, but then the Russians and Chinese gets bad names. Okay, Arpita, how can a non-technical person can be prevented from malicious websites? So Arpita, of course, we are talking of category of websites. So we even have spyware, malware website as a category. So of course you can block such categories. And again, as I said, since you can do a granular policing, what you can do is you can basically decide, okay, if it's an account department, you give them more stricter policies, right? Something like that. So you can also take your the level, IT level of your various people or various division and accordingly set policies. Why you demerge Elite Core and Cyberhome? Okay, so that's Nikunj Patel. So Nikunj, of course, this is not a technical question, so I can go away from this. But then I would answer that. Elite Core, of course, Cyberhome has been just a division of Elite Core, but then has always been working independently. Okay. Now Elite Core, as you know, it's in that telco segment, OSS, BSS billing segment. So of course, both have different vision, and since we look forward to grow more, obviously, which means we are looking at maybe more investors. So it would be hard for us to get a common investor who would have interest in telecom as well as security. So that's the reason we spin off from Elite Core. So Cyberhome would be a separate entity. Anyway, thanks for telling this to the audience. Okay, Rajesh, do we have any web accelerator device with Cyberhome? Web accelerator, okay, I'm taking it as WAN accelerator. No, Rajesh, we don't have any accelerator device with Cyberhome. Can you explain in brief what is XSS attack? Ankit, I think this would go into technical. I would like to avoid that. I have something coming up, so let me just quickly finish this. In which multi-core architecture you are working? Nikunj, we work with Intel. In fact, we are really closely working with the embedded team of Intel. Okay, so that's for your information. How does Cyberhome identify poison DNS and filter bad sites? Okay, we would have basically the kind of farming control what we have. We basically check with our own like root DNS, and that's how we can block that. What are the controls that can be best ensured while vulnerable ports are allowed for business reasons like port? Okay, so this is where Rajiv, thanks for that question. So this is where the things like the IPS, the WAF come into picture, or the application which comes into picture. So since we are talking of actual signature, so we would know application by its behavior, right? Not by which port it is using. So that's how we can catch hold of that. Can I integrate Cyberhome UTM with proxy server? Is there any need of confirming the failover for UTM device? Confirming the failover. Okay, Sudhir, basically the best part about Cyberhome is that it can be used as a proxy server. That means, in fact, it can even be used as a single arm proxy server. That means I just use one interface of CyberOme and I can still use CyberOme as a proxy. I can make use of the antivirus for HTTP, HTTPS. I can make use of the bandwidth management for user and the web category. I can make use of the reporting feature. I can make use of the access management. I can make use of the URL filtering. Yes, I can do all those things when CyberOme is configured in a proxy mode. For a programmer point of view, what are the points that should remember while coding to make your product secure? Product secure. Ankit Mani, okay. I think he is offline. I didn't get this question. To make your product secure. I didn't get this question. Okay, is it possible to implement QoS policy after completion of surfing quota? Okay, this looks like some CyberOme user. Okay, so this is a support query I am getting here. Okay, is it possible to implement a QoS policy after completion of surfing quota? For example, the user who has completed 500 MB daily quota with limited speed will be allotted. Okay. No, Prashant, I got your question. No, I think surfing quota, we clearly say that if the user has exceeded the quota, we just drop off the user. Okay, you want something like that 3G plan, right? So once you finish that 10 GB, you will get the 2G speed, right? Not the 3G speed. No, we don't have that feature. But definitely, if you think it is very much needed, you can definitely put it on support. We will try to accommodate it in our roadmap. But then we do the kind of business related study for each feature request. Only then it would come in the CyberOme. Nikunj Patel, what is multiprocessing and multi-threading in multi-core architecture? Nikunj, do you really think I should be answering this here? So Nikunj, you definitely drop a mail to me. I would really like to know who you are. Looks like you are a CyberOme user or closely know EliteCore as a company. Okay, I'm done. Did I miss any? Mohini?
The only questions we had, Mr. Sumit. Thank you so much for the insightful presentation.
Okay.
I'm really thankful to you for conducting this webinar. It was a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this session would be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thanks.